Good morning once again, and I welcome you all to the second lecture demonstration of the day. We have Dr. V Premalatha speaking on Raga descriptions in the Brhaddesi of Matanga. Dr. Premalatha trained in vocal music under K.N. Sushila, a disciple of Sangeeta Kalanidhi Srimati D.K. Patamal, underwent specialized training on the kritis of Muthuswami Dikshitar under Srimati Ramani Bhaskar and Hema Ramanathan, trained on the Veena under Sangeeta Kala Acharya Dr. R.S. Jayalakshmi, and having qualified from the Sri Sadguru Sangeeta Vidyalayam Madurai, obtained her PhD under the guidance of Professor N. Ramanathan in the University of Madras. Having taught for a while at the Sri Venkateshwara University, she then joined the Central University of Tamil Nadu, Tiruvarur, where she is now the head of the department and the Dean School of Performing Arts and Fine Arts. The Music Academy owes a great debt of gratitude to Dr. Premalatha because in an era when computerization was still very lagging behind, she completed the keyword index for all the articles in the Music Academy's journals between 1939, bringing it right up to 29, bringing it right up to 2009. And she received the Musicologist Award from the Music Academy in 2022. Over to you now, 45 minutes. Thank you.
Namaskaram to all the learned people who are housed in this great prestigious Madras Music Academy. And with all my warm welcome to you all and thanking the Music Academy for giving me this opportunity, I start my talk on the Raga descriptions in the Brhaddesi of Matanga. Hope all of you have heard about Brhaddesi, a work by Matanga. And this is one of the very early works written in Sanskrit, supposed to be placed between the 6th and the 9th century. And we speak about the Marga system spoken by Bharata and the Deshi system which had evolved after that. So this is supposed to be the first work written in Sanskrita on the Deshi tradition. And music was not conceived as just singing, but it was a composite art under the title Natya, which had the instrumental music, the drumming, the acting, music, singing, everything together, along with a story or a drama plot. And this Brhaddesi is now available to us just because of the publication done by Sambashiva Shastri in 1928, based on a single manuscript. Actually, we have 2 copies of 2 parts. Sad thing is that it is not complete. Only parts of the work has been discovered and a publication was done. Later in 1990s, a critical edition was undertaken by Professor Premalatha Sharma with Anil Bihari Biohar. It was for his PhD dissertation from Banaras. And then a Kannada version by Professor R. Satyanarayana. So what is that we know about Matanga's Brhaddesi is that Matanga says a lot of musical information he has given in that. And he says, he gives extracts of many authors who had lived during his time, little before his time, like Bharata, Kashyapa, Yashtika, Shardula, and others. And now about the chapters. I told you that Brhaddesi is an incomplete work. It consists of some shlokas followed by prose passages. And in the available edited text which has been formulated, we can identify 6 chapters dealing with these subjects which I have given here. And today's presentation I am just going to focus on the 3rd chapter, which is on Raga, because Brhaddesi is the first work which is spelling out Raga, the term, and also the Sargam syllables. Today we write Sari, Gama, Padani. That letters, the syllables to represent a swara is noted from this book onwards. And now what is that we are going to see in today's session? I have put it in this manner. Some of the technical terms have to be understood if you have to study the ragas of that period. Because I request you all not to set your mind to today's singing of the ragas. All of you, please come along with me and let us all go now backwards to the 5th to 6th or the 8th century. So our mind has to transform to a different period, and we should now know what were the terms used during that period. And now I will give you a small insight into these terms so that it will be helpful to understand how the ragas were described. And these are going to be the things which I am going to speak about today. Very important is the Giti, because Giti is the main concept based on which Matanga is speaking about the ragas. So these are the terms which we have to go through first. I'll start with this. Perhaps it may look like taking a theory class, but excuse me, we have to just get into this. Then it will be really interesting so that we can understand what we are going to speak about it. Grama. Grama in that period was called as the coming together or the collection of 7 swaras. Most of the aspects have been said in Bharata Natya Shastra. The same have been followed by Matanga, but he brings in some of the changes also in that, whatever the changes that had taken place during his period. So probably there were 3 gramas, but here we have to understand the mainly used gramas were Shaja grama and the Madhyama grama. What is the difference between these 2 gramas? Each grama means it will have 7 swaras, and the 7 swaras were distributed among the 22 shrutis. That is 1 octave if we take. So starting from the sa up to the ni, it is placed in a big compass of 22 positions. So how these swaras are positioned and what is the interval between 2 swaras, that is going to be about the grama. So Shaja grama will be having the 4-3-2, 4-4-3-2. Many of our M music students would be knowing this, how that comes. And Madhyama grama differs just because of the lowering of Panchama by 1 Shruti. This would explain you in a better manner where you can see Shaja is placed on the 4th Shruti. If you say 4th, there is something 3 before that. So it ends on 22. So, and I think you all know that earlier the entire system was a circular scale. Okay, so there is no starting point. Anything can become a starting point and the circle will complete. So you can start with 3, end with sa. We can start with ma, end with ga. So this is the way the swaras were perceived. And if you see the how, you can see the gap in between. These are all the Shruti positions which were heard, but not you. This is regarding the grama in the very earlier times. And if you see Madhyama grama, you can see that the Panchama from 17th Shruti will be moved, lowered by 1 Shruti. Then that becomes the Madhyama grama. And now Murchana. Now I was speaking about an abstract that how the swaras were placed. When you arrange these, you put 7 balls in 1 basket. Now arrange them in a sequential order. That becomes a Murchana. Today also we have this term meaning the Aroha or the Avaroha. That is the Murchana. And it should be Sampurna. Then it becomes, or if all the 7 swaras are there, it is a Murchana. And a Murchana can also omit 1 or 2 swaras. Then it is called as the Tana. Shadavatana, Avadavatana. Then there were rules prescribed as to which swara has to be omitted from which Murchana. So a Murchana can start with Gandhara. Murchana can start with Madhyama. Now when I am going to speak about Raga Lakshana, I will say for this Raga, Daivatadi Murchana. Means the Murchana should start with Da. So for this only I am giving you this information. Next comes Jati. Jati is something to denote about the primordial concept of the melodic base for any kind of a song. Please remember in those days music was used for drama or the natya. So they had some kind of a musical component which were set to one of these jatis. And these jatis had some kind of a common characteristic features. And these, when some features are together, like these are all the melodic types which govern a particular melodic movement of a song. There were 18 jatis, and some jatis were based on Shajagrama, Swara combination. Some jatis were according to the Madhyama Grama Swara combination. Don't worry about these details, just to know what is jati. But very important is, these jatis were the first or the very basic structures of music, what we have to perceive or what we have to look into. These jatis had 10 characteristic features, or the lakshanas. Here starts our story. Please, can you see the terms graha, the grahaswara? But the same interpretation is given. The starting or the commencing swara of a melody will be the graha. Amsa, which is a dominating or a predominant. Nyasa, which is the ending. Apanyasa, which is the end point of a portion of, not the whole song. Alpatva bahutva, that swara which is very sparsely or very little to be, and which has to be again and again sung. And shadava audava, which swara can be removed, which two swaras can be removed. So like this, these were some of the characteristic features, the 10 jati lakshanas prescribed in the earlier times. Later we had some 2 or 3 additions also. So bear this in mind. We are going to connect this to the next kind of our journey. Next comes Giti. In Bharata's Natya Shastra, Giti represents a syllabic distribution of syllables related to vak. But here, we have to understand, in Matanga's Brhaddesi, it represents a style of rendering of a raga. This is a new thing which has evolved. And he starts the entire description basing everything on the Gitis. So 7 kinds of Gitis are mentioned by Matanga, and each Giti has a specific style of rendering. If this kind of A kind of rendering will have some ragas based on that. B kind of a style will have this many ragas. C kind of a style will have this many ragas under that. So the ragas were grouped as per the Giti. So Giti represents a style of singing of a song in that raga. You have the Shuddha Giti, Binna Giti, Gaudi Giti, Raga Giti, and the Sadharani Giti. These are the 5 major. And the ragas based on these 5 styles of presentation were called as the Grama ragas, or the earliest kind of ragas that prevailed in the pre-7th, 8th, 9th centuries. Bhasha Vibhasha, or the derivatives which have evolved and had been more actively present in different regions, because Matanga's Brhaddesi speaks about the Deshi. He speaks about the ragas in each and every corner of our country. And that has also been researched upon, which, for example, Malava represents the melody, something in the central part of Madhya Pradesh, Gauda, Saindavi. And like this, there are so many researches taking place, which raga had evolved from which region, from the Indus Valley region, like that. And now, let us move on. So I have completed about the basic technical terms. We will be moving on to the chapter on Raga Lakshana. What this chapter says, I told you, among the 6, the third one is speaking about the Raga Lakshana. And the third chapter starts first with the definition, because our Sanskrit scholars usually start their description with definition and then etymology, they say. They try to bring it from the Sanskrit root word and all. I'm just putting it like this, raga. What is raga? That delights the people. It is made up of swaras and varnas. Here varna means the kinds of swara phrasings, sthayi, sanchari, arohi, avrohi. How a swara can move. Either it can go up or come down, not a single swara, the consecutive swaras. Sarigama, it can go, Magarisa, it can come, Samagama, it can come, Sasa, Sasa, Sa, it can sustain. Like this, we have to perceive. So, what are the varieties of movements? And then based on that, the patterns. Because our melody is based on the swaras, combination of swaras, the patterns. So, these are all the very basic features which we have seen that in that period that has been represented in the text. And then the Gitis, he is describing all these, or next one to the next, it is given in the 3rd chapter. Let us now take up each Giti one by one and try to understand how that particular style of singing has been mentioned. So this also I am trying to make an attempt based on the Brhaddesi edition from the IGNCA and also the translation done by Mrs. Hema Ramanathan of the Sanskrit shlokas. Still the research is going on how to interpret that. This is the first Giti called as the Shuddha Giti, which has 5 ragas under that. And here he says, the melodies should go in a straight manner. So the ragas under Shuddha Giti, you can't see any curved, zigzag kind of a movement. And it should be straight, delicate. And it should be sung in all the 3 regions, that is Mandra, Madhya, Tara. Look at the names of the ragas: Shadava, Panchama, Kaishika, Madhyama, Shuddha, Sadharita, Shuddha, Kaishika. Have you ever come across these names anywhere? Yeah, names of the swaras. But of course, these plus 2 more names are actually those which are found in the Kudumyanmala inscription. Along with these 5 names, we have the Shajagrama, Madhyamagrama. Kudumyanmala inscription is very famous and one of the first earliest inscription on music available near Kudumyanmala in the Pudukkottai district, in a hillock in the temple, where the swara phrases are given, and this is meant for the students to practice the swara exercises. Ettirkum, Yelirkum, Ivai Uriya, they say. Yalirkum, Patirkum, Ivai Uriya is also another interpretation. So because that one syllable is missing, so that's the interpretation. So these are the ancient types of melodies. Now we can see the dating of this particular concept. This has existed in the 7th century. A parallel thing we can see in the Brhaddesi. And next comes the Binna Giti. This is the different. He says here, it should be quick moving. Shadava, Pancham. No, Shajagrama, Madhyamagrama. அது ரெண்டு மட்டும் இந்த சுத்தா கீதியில் இல்லை, மற்ற 5 இருக்கு. யூஸ்வலி ஷட்ஜகிராம மத்தியமகிராமங்கிறத அவங்க ஆன் த ஹோல் எடுத்துருக்கலாம். ஸோ தீஸ் ஆர் தி 7. Richard Wittis has done an excellent work on this, the early ragas of South Indian music. And here you can see Binna Giti, the style of singing the ragas should be curved. Ullasita, he says, like it should be swinging, it should go turning, then the scattered, and the swaras in the tara and the mandra. So this is a kind of a explanation it is given. Of course, the Binna Giti definition also goes little longer. I'm just giving you in the important points. These are the 5 ragas based on that particular style of rendering. I'll take up one example and anyway explain you. Gaudi Giti, which is also called as Vohati. Here we have 3 ragas, and they say here it should be rendered with delicate shakes. Actually, the term Gamaka appears here. The Kampita appears. Ullasita appears. So we can see that the kind of vocal intonation or the kind of rendering. So when they are explaining a raga, they had used these terms to make people understand or to document that this is the way, the style it has to be rendered. So it had more kind of a melodic aspects which were included and packed inside a style of rendering. And this has to be rendered with the sound ha and wo. And the chin should touch your chest. And it has to be sung like that. And it should go with faster, quicker, faster in all the 3 sthanas with Kampita. Very difficult to perceive and do it. And these 3 has to be sung. And it is all, every raga has been given how it has to be sung. Actually, very poor that we have not taken that much of deeper research in this to definitely have a big scope. And then Raga Giti has got 8 ragas. This is endowed with delightful. It should be very lucid, very clear, but very powerful. And here, all the 4 varnas should be present in this particular style of singing. We have 8 ragas under this Raga Giti. Very delicate gamakas should be used in this. That is what he says. And next, Sadarita Giti, where 7 ragas are grouped under this particular style of rendering, where it is a combination of the straight, a delicate, attractive, and little fast. Then we do not know where is that slightly faster. Fast, faster. Okay, and it will be combined with minute prayogas. Premalatha Sharma really, she gives in the Vimarsha, what is that prayoga? Should we take it as a phrase or what? Whenever it is implemented, prayogam panna means you just happen it, let it happen. So that also can be prayoga. How to interpret, it's a big, every term requires a lot of research. So then kakus. Kaku represents the kind of a vocal presentation. How you have to have your throat and the voice, how you have to present that particular raga. So it will have all kinds embedded in this. And Bhasha Giti and Vibhasha Gitis, actually Matanga says that the earlier 5 till now what I said, it's given a very detailed description in the Raga chapter. The Bhashas come as the next chapter. And there he says, from the Grama Raga, still now what we have said, from them evolve the Bhasha, from Bhasha, the Vibhasha and the Antarabhasha, and all these are prevalent in the common man's music. It's there, they are attracted by the common man. It is being sung and which is understandable. So I think there was a distinction that this is the music or conceived by the knowledgeables in music. This is the one which is prevalent and delightful for the common man also. That term is there for the Lokaranjaka. Let us now look at a sample of one Raga Lakshana of Binna Panchama. This comes under the second Giti, the Binna Giti, where I told curved and other things. See how the Raga is explained. Shuddha Panchamatvat Proktaha Swarajnaihi Binna Panchamaha Daivatamshaha Panchamantaha Sutradhara Praveshaha. So now Asyartaha, here he says, Shuddha Panchamat Bhinna Panchamo Madhyama Grama Sambandaha. So this is from the Madhyama Grama. Madhyama Panchami Jatayoho Jatyatva. So it is born from the Jatis, these 2 Jatis. Then Graha Amshoscha Daivataha. Graha and Amsa are Daivata. Panchamo Nyasaha. Nyasaswara is Panchama. Nishado Atra Kakali. The Nishada present in this is of Kakali variety. Kvachit Nishadasyapi Prayoha. Sometimes you can have the Nishada. Just Nishada means it is the Suddha Nishada, the Shuddha Swara. Kakali is the Sadharana Swara or the other variety. Because as per Bharata, if this comes, the other one should not come. But here he says, Kvachit, this can also come. This is the change which we can see from Bharata to Matanga. And then Sampurno Chayam. This is a Sampurna. Sutradhare Praveshe Asya Vinyogaha. This has to be adopted during the pravesha of the Sutradhara in a drama. So this song, for that song, use this raga. Bibatsya Bhayanako Raso. This will evoke Bibatsa Bhayanaka. Daivatadi Murchana. Sanchari Varna. Prasannadi Alankara. Dakshine Vrittau Chitre. So the kalas or the pace, you say Dakshina Marga, Chitra, Chitratara, Chitratama, we say. So in that Marga, the kala, it has to be sung. Chachat Putadi Talaha. It should be in Chachat Putatala, Swara Pada Gite. In that song where the swaras, which is made up of the swaras and padas. So this is the way a raga is described. Now come back. Jati 10 lakshanas. This is Grama Raga Lakshana. And today we are also studying some Raga Lakshanas. I am going to interrelate this at the end. So this is the English translation. Now, from this example, almost it is the same manner all the Grama Ragas are explained. So what are the factors which determine a Lakshana of a Raga? Jati, Graha, please go through these 19 aspects. Graha, Amsa, Nyasa, Vadi, Samvadi. And you can also see the Rasa, Prayoga, whether it is Kakali, Antra. All these factors have been specified for each of this. Maybe 1 or 2 have not been taken. Probably, I do not know why it has not been mentioned. It is not that all the 19, but by and large, we can see these factors are the governing factors to explain a Raga Lakshana, a Lakshana of a Raga. Let us come to the observations now. So Brhaddesi is the first work to deal with ragas, and we can see the sarigama syllables. The text is incomplete. It's not complete. We have so many missing passages. The IGNC edition has been made, prepared with the help of the quotations or the extracts found in later works like Abhinava Gupta's commentary, or Sharangadeva, Sangit Ratnakara, or Simha Bhupala's commentary. They say when they are speaking about their work, Matanga says like this. When Matanga says like this, when they say that passages have been borrowed, and that's the way the Brhaddesi has been edited. So this, then when he speaks about, Matanga says, I am going to speak about those aspects which have not been said by Bharata. So the raga he has taken up. And then there is one Bhasha Lakshana in a separate next to 4th chapter. It looks like a conversation, and it's a part from the Sarvagama Samhita, they say. So this is, there is also some Raga Lakshanas for all the Deshi Ragas. This section, the Deshi Raga Lakshana, is quite different from what we saw. I'll show you one example. For Panchamakya, it is a derivative of Bhasha. You can see Panchamamsha tu Shadjanta Sampurna Lokaranjika. I told you, no, it is for the Lokaranjika. Panchama Rishabha Samvadaha Shadja Madhyamo Tata. So, between that, Bhashayam Panchamakya tu Sampurna Samudahrita Udaharanam Papa Pa Ripa Ripa Papa Mapa. Can you see? The explanation is very short. All the 19 or 18 factors have not been dealt, but the example also, Udaharanam, the illustration is there. So this is the difference. So people say that that part is by another author, Yashtiga, which has been mixed into this. Research on Matanga's work has been taken up, I told you, by Premalatha Sharma and Anil Biohar. Anil Biohar's PhD thesis was on this. And later there was a seminar organized by the Sangeet Natak Academy at Banaras in 1995. And the papers presented in that seminar was published by Sangeet Natak Academy, which has all the papers devoted to various aspects of Brhaddesi. For example, the tala, there is no tala. Instrument, there is no instrument. We have Jati, Murchana, then how the origin, the Deshi aspect, the Raga aspect, and the text, and then the relation between the prose and the verses. Like that, many aspects have been dealt. And now what I did for this preparation, actually I have to tell, Brhaddesi, that first part and all, we used to take classes. The Grama Murchana Jati system, everything is there in our syllabus. We keep reading it. That is different. But specifically what is said in Brhaddesi, if I had to do a paper, I started studying the entire text first, then only of the Raga chapter. I studied almost all the shlokas with the meanings. And then I understood where should I start, what to end. A researcher should go into the primary source and the secondary source. There were some articles written by Professor N. Ramanathan on the problem of Deshi, the historical perspective of Matanga's Brhaddesi, and the relation between this and such aspects, and also of what I have learned from him during my research at him. And I had put, and then only I came to know about this seminar proceedings book I read through. Richard Viddes, really he is a very great scholar. He has very critically specified and mentioned in his book, actually the early ragas of early Indian music, where he speaks about the modes and melodies, the Kudumya and Malay inscription, and I also had to ponder upon into the Panchamarab, which also belong to that. And after reading Ritvik Sanyal's another article on the ragas, the raga names, which raga has come from which geographical region, what is the input, how Matanga has just brought in that. Today we speak the Vasudevaika Kudumbakam. Today we speak about one India, that he has put everything together and speaks that this is from this area. So now what is our duty to now look into and how to understand such ragas? So after doing this, I came to some kind of a hypothesis and some findings which are based on my own study and the research done by the early scholars. I would just share these to you now. There exists a relation between the factors that determine the lakshanas. Now, when we are speaking about a raga, just what comes is, what is the grammar of the raga? So, the Jati lakshana, the grammar raga lakshana, it has evolved. And today, present day, we see the raga lakshanas being mentioned in various texts. During different periods of history, it has got evolved. The names have changed. Sometimes we have the same name depicting different melodic structures also. The Bhairavi of that period could not be the same Bhairavi of today. The Botta Raga, the Binna Panchama. So like that, there are different traditions which have parallel traditions, and the transitions have been there. Just looking at the names of ragas, we should not be we should not get deviated also. And then, but there is a commonality where we can see that commonness is the factors which the Grahaswara is the starting swara. That is still there today. The Nyasa swara is the ending. And in the Jati Lakshana, we don't have this Gamaka and other things. Of course, the kind of articulation was more for the Kaku and other things were said in Bharata's period. That I am not touching. But when you come to Matanga's period, we can definitely feel that ragas were not just a combination of swaras. The identity of the ragas themselves and the grouping of ragas under the Giti themselves were based on the melodic presentation and the beauty which is involved in each variety. And today we have a different kind of structures, like when we are classifying a raga under a mela, we say this is the janya of this melakarta. We did see that there it is Shadjagrama Sambandha. It is Jateyoho. This Jati, it has born from this Jati. It could be born from the Shaji Jati. It could be born from the Shadjodi Chiva Jati. There were 18 Jatis. So each Jati were one melodic colors. This is a color, this is a color pattern. Both can be adopted. So like that, there was some system. So unless we understand the basic terms, we could not interpret or just look at what it is. So there is a correlation, and still based on the available and the context, though there are differences, but the basic structure has evolved from the beginning, and we are keeping up that tradition. And number two, in those days, ragas were associated with one jati. This particular means one or more jatis. Songs means this is set to this jati in earlier. Next, in Matanga's period, this particular song can be based on this jati, can also be based on this jati. So you give more variety. So it becomes expanded. When this happens, we are little deviating from the Bharata's tradition, but that is what Matanga says. I am going to speak about some changes which had taken place, which is not said by Bharata. So this shows us the change which had taken place, and this is for Lokaranjika, and this is for the knowledgeables, and this is for the tradition. So these ways, these were perceived. And next, when the concepts of certain terms as specified by Bharata, like Giti was said by Bharata, which is meant for, I told, vak or the speech. It is for the syllables, the arrangement of syllables in a word or in a sentence, that kind of, it is called the Padagiti, also said in Matanga. But here Matanga introduces Giti as a special style of rendering of singing. So this is totally a melodic feature. The Ragatva comes because of this Giti. So this is the biggest contribution of Matanga, where he has introduced and he has grouped all the ragas. Sing this way. You have to sing straight. You have to sing it with gamaka. You have to sing it with your chin based on this. You have to sing it faster. These are all the various styles. So these styles, these gitis and kaku, and then sadharana swaras. As I told, one sadharana swara comes means the grama swara will be, it cannot be a dominating swara. There are some factors. But in this period, we can see there is a changeover. Kvachit nishada. Nishada also comes. So he is giving more. Matanga is not the person who is giving the rules. That was the system which prevailed. The system accepted to sing the Nishada and also the Kakali Nisha. So the Kakali and Antara were the two additional swaras. So that also. Then when you have two more, like you have 7 means seats, you are giving 2 more seats means the quota increases, means you can have more combinations. So you have more possibilities of creating the melodic structures. This is what we have to understand. And this kind of corrections or changes which are taken up had been very well acknowledged by the later authors. That has been the stepping stone for even Parshvadeva, Kumbha and Sharangadeva and others. Now one more thing. Attributing certain things to this raga, like this swara, starting this swara, everything is related to swara. And if it is rasa, the tala, and the marga is how the song moves. So we are going little bit next stage just with the melody and when with the, so the entire raga description is not just for a raga as an abstract. It is meant for that raga which is used in the song. So we are looking at it as a song. So for this kind of song, if it is in this raga, it should be like this. So this is a kind of whatever the songs which are occurring in different stages of a drama, in the Purvaranga, how it should be, in the Garbha Sandhi, how it should be, this raga, and it should have this rasa, when the Nayaka is doing like this, everything is this. If you, when I read through all the 30 and odd ragas, so I selected just one, the Sutradhara Pravesha, this raga. So these are all the interesting features. And next, the ways of, now when you look at the Gitis, you can see the subtle, delicate, fast, slow, straight, curved, and ullasita. It's like swinging, jaru kind of a movement. And then gamakas should be there. It should be sung plain. And then different kinds of kakus should be employed. In the Bhasha Giti, it says about the Malavi kaku. That kaku which was more prevalent in the Malava region. So that kind of tonal intonation you should use while singing those ragas. Probably they meant a lot. And steady singing, fast singing, slow singing, delicate singing. So all these are different facets of singing. And then the range of melody. Some will be in Tara and Mandra. Some in all the 3 sthanas very fast. And some will be from here to there, just go slowly. So these all govern how you have to sing. Because again, understand, this is a period when ragas had come and we are just starting to develop the ragas. And then this is ultimate the enjoyment of the people. Okay, I will sing all these things and go. Adrishtapala I will get. If I do this, my guru will bless me. Or if I do this, I will complete my exam. No, this is for Lokaranjika. All these things were done for the enjoyment. It has to be, everywhere we find the word, it is very soft, it is delicate. So the ragas were not fierceful features with lot of thorns struck everywhere. It was very, but it had all the melodic aspects attached to them. Now, this is the way Matanga has picturized the raga. So these aspects will tell us how Matanga has described the raga. So this is my core point which I wanted to tell you. And next, the raga names. I was showing you many raga names. I didn't read out each and every one. That will consume time. It's anyway available on the screen. Like Kaushika is there. You should be aware of the punts of Devaram. Kaushikam. We have one Kausikam. Gandhara Panchamam. Parantakkaragam Takkesi. Here we have the Takkaragam. Both had prevailed more or less, just plus or minus 2-3 centuries, if you just take. They had all prevailed during that period. Vinnashajjam. There it is Hindolaka. Here it is Indalam. I do not want to relate it to present-day Carnatic music. Please. I am just looking at the terms, the names.
I was just hoping you will say that at this point.
No, I never ever, I tell all my research scholars not to come at a very hasty conclusions of attaching something. This is our attachment we have to our topic. That we have to be detached. When we stay detached and look at it, I told you all, we are going now backwards to 1500 years. Now we have to slowly only come back to 21st century. So these terms are there. There has been, as I told, the Kudmiyanmala inscription had the 7 same names. There were some swara combinations. 7 names, also 5 names are there in Brhaddesi as the main grammar ragas. Same thing is being authenticated by later writers also. We have the same tradition in the Thevaram tradition. So what I did, I studied Panchamarabu, which they say belongs to the 3rd Sangam age. Probably people place some people to 5th, 6th century, some say to 9th century. Anyway, it is again like Brhaddesi, only that 5 to 10. Anyway, we see that these raga names are also present in that book. Okay. So now it is the duty of the future scholars to slowly and carefully ponder upon the names and their qualities and other things. But the names had existed during that period. And next, I want to now come to a conclusion and say, the study it is only started to study Brhaddesi, what is there, how it is. So I have just placed these items. Now it is our brain will now work on whether to do this. What is that Giti? Are we following that particular style today? In which tradition? This Patandram, how we sing? Or the Gharana? Like some Gharanas will have this kind of rendering. Again, they are also different, the styles of presentations. So this is Matanga's Brhaddesi is really a very important work. This has served as an important bridge connecting the Bharata's Gandharva and showing a light to the future Deshi. So it has shown a path. From there, people have taken up their kind of an explanation in the later text. Then after 15th century, we have this Melakarta, Janya, the South Indian system, North Indian. That's a different textual tradition. I'm speaking about that period where India was totally one single, that music system. But still, Matanga's Brhaddesi clearly gives a picture about the regional differences, the different names of ragas which had prevailed in different parts of the country. I have not dealt into detail about the bhashas, vibhashas or the raga, because this itself, I thought first we will take up this. Better to go one small area in a deeper sense so that I need not hurry about. And these bhashas, there are so many bhasha ragas, and with all udharanas, you can see papa, paripa and all. So that can also be taken up as a future study. But as a scholar, having been working in the area of music manuscripts, right from November 1995, I used to tell my teachers that, or even all my friends, that I am living with manuscripts, I am breathing day by day. Kausalya ma'am knows because she was my examiner for PhD. She used to describe that she has been watching me also. So, in case if we get hold of the remaining part of Brhaddesi, somewhere it should be in some part of this world, we would probably get some more insight, definitely. And many of the works were discovered from the Malabar region, Travancore. So, probably this might, one fine day, we might get the additional parts or the missing parts. There were, if you take the book and see Sambashiva Shastri's edition, lot of gaps in between. And there is also a manuscript copied by Ramakrishna Kavi, preserved in ORI Tirupati, where he has given his suggestions in Telugu Lipi. Probably, I do not know whether it was consulted. It should have been consulted. So then the recent edition is also there. In case we get hold of that Brhaddesi, it would be definitely a biggest asset for our textual tradition and give us much more insight into the raga described in those days. So with this, I thank the Madras Music Academy, Mr. Sriram sir, and Sangeet Kalanadi designate T.M. Krishna sir, and I have many of my teachers here, my friends and well-wishers, Rasikas, for giving me this opportunity and patiently listening to this presentation. And special thanks to Sri Krishna when he asked me to present something on the earlier music. I said, sir, definitely. I have been working on manuscripts, I have been taking classes. But if I have to speak of raga, means only Brhaddesi is the first work. I need to do some homework and groundwork. Please give me some time. He said, Ninga pannungo. I think I have tried my best with all the commitments. So if this has been appropriate for the title and the theme of this particular conference, I'll be very happy for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Premalatha. Members of the experts committee. Dr. Ramakausalya.
கமெண்ட்ஸே சொல்ல முடியாத ஒரு லெக்சர் இது. பயமாக இருந்தது கேட்கும்போது எனக்கு. ஏன்னா எங்கே இருக்கோம், நம்ம எங்கெல்லாம் என்னெல்லாம் இருக்குது, நம்ம இன்னும் நம்ம தெரிஞ்ச மாதிரி இப்படி கும்ப அமைச்சின்னு வளையிறமே. ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு ஒர்க்கு மற்றவங்களோட இது ஒரு ஒர்க்கில் வந்து இவ்வளோ பயமுறுத்தல்கள் இருக்கான்னு வந்து தோன்றுறது. இதில் சில இடங்கள்லாம் வந்து நிஜமாக இதெல்லாம் வந்து நாங்கள்லாம் பாடங்கள்லாம் நடத்தியிருக்கோம். என்ன அவமானம் இதெல்லாம் மற்றங்கள்லாம் எங்கள் சிலபஸில் இருக்க நாங்கள் நடத்தியிருக்கோம் மற்றங்கள்லாம். ஆனால் மற்றங்கள்லாம் எவ்வளோ விஷயம். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் தட் இன்னியை வச்சுன்னு அதை பார்க்கக்கூடாது. ஆனால் மரம முடியும் அந்த குரங்கை நினச்சிட்டு அந்த மருந்து சாப்பிடாத கதையாக தான் இருக்குது. ஏன்னா யாழை பற்றி படிக்கும்போது வீணையை வச்சுனே யாழை படிப்போம், எப்படி புரியும்? அதே போல் தான் என்ன தான் சொன்னால் கூட திருப்பி திருப்பி என்னை எங்கேயோ வந்து இழுத்துன்னு வரோம். ரொம்ப அழகாக இந்த லோகரஞ்சகி சொன்னேன் இல்லையா? ஆமாம். இந்த லோகரஞ்சகியை பற்றி காமன் மேன் சொல்கிறா இல்லையா? அது வந்து எப்படி அந்த காமன் மேனுங்கிறது வந்து ஃபோக்கை சொல்கிறாளா இல்லை எல்லாருக்கும் புரிய முடியாத ராகம்னு சொல்கிறாளா என்னென்னு தான் அதில் அதான் இருக்குது. அதில்
அந்த ஸ்லோக்காவில் கொடுத்துருக்கு அப்படி லோகரஞ்சிகா அந்த மாதிரி வருது. அதுக்கு டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன் கொடுத்தோம், இட் கேன் பி அண்டர்ஸ்டுட் பை ஈவன் த காமன் மேன். இப்போ ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஒன்று மட்டும்
டூ கிளாசிக்கல் இல்லாமல் இருக்குமா? அது
தெரியலையே. அதெல்லாம் தான் வந்து இந்த பாஷா விபாஷாவில் வரக்கூடிய ராகங்கள். நம்ம இப்போ ஒவ்வொரு ராகம் இப்போ நான் வந்து கிராம ராகாஸ் மட்டும்தான் எடுத்து ஃபுல் டீட்டெயில்ஸ் கொடுத்துருக்கேன். இந்த பாஷா விபாஷாவில் இருக்கிறது இந்த தேசி ராகாஸ்னு சொல்கிறோம். அதில் இந்த மாதிரி இருக்குங்கிறப்போ இந்த பார்ட் வந்து இட் இஸ் டேக்கன் இப்போ அதுலேயே வருது. இதெல்லாம் இப்போ புரிஞ்சுடுத்து. நெக்ஸ்ட்டு என்ன பண்ணலாம் சொல்லுங்கள். இந்த சம்வாதம் மாதிரி ஒரு 2 பேர் பேசுகிறப்போ யாஷ்டிகா சொல்கிறாரு, இவர் சொல்கிறாரு, ஷார்துல சொல்கிறப்போ இதெல்லாம் இப்படி தான்ப்பா இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறச்ச அந்த டேர்ம்ஸ் எல்லாம் வருது. இதோடைய டிஸ்கிரிப்ஷன் கொடுத்துட்டு எண்டில் ஒரு கோலோஃபோன் திஸ் இஸ் ஃப்ரம் தி சர்வாகம சம்ஹிதா, இவர் சொன்ன அதுலேருந்து எடுக்கப்பட்டது அப்படின்னு இருக்குது. இப்போது இந்த மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட் ஸ்டடி பண்ணவங்களுக்கு தெரியும் அந்த பிட்டு வந்து காப்பி பேஸ்ட் ஆயிருக்கா இல்லை நிஜமாவே உள்ளே இருக்கா ஒன்று. ஏன்னா நான் நிறைய பார்த்துருக்கேன். நம்ம அந்த ஒரு பண்டில் எடுத்ததும் இதில் இருக்குன்னு அப்படியே போட்டுடுறாங்க. ஒரு 1லேருந்து 10 பக்கம் தான் இந்த டெக்ஸ்ட்டாக இருக்கும். பழங்காலத்தில் ஓலை எழுதுறச்சு ஒவ்வொன்றுத்துக்கும் ஒரு தனித்தனி பண்டில் போட மாட்டான். எங்கெங்கே என்னென்ன கிடைக்குதோ இப்படி போகிறாங்க. இப்போ காசி போகிறாங்க, அங்கே இதெல்லாம் கிடச்சது ஒருத்தர் பிராமணார் வீட்டில் அப்படின்னா அது எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்து எழுதிடுவாங்க. இங்கேருந்து ஒரு சாஸ்திரிகள் வீட்டுக்கு போவாங்க, அவங்க வீட்டில் இருக்குன்னா லைனாக எல்லாத்தையும் எழுதிடுவாங்க. கிடைச்ச டைமில் எல்லாத்தையும் எழுதிட்டு வரப்போ எல்லாமே மிக்ஸ் ஆகிருக்கலாம். அதை பண்டில் சரியாக கட்டலைன்னா இந்த லீஃப் அந்த லீஃப் ஜம்பிள் ஆயிருக்கும். அப்போ எதோட இதுன்னு பிரித்து எடுக்காமல் ஒரு இன்டர்பிரிட்டேஷன் பண்ணி சில மிஸ்கன்செப்ஷன்ஸ் நம்ம சிஸ்டமில் இருக்குது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் அது வந்து நான் பிரஹதேசி மத்தங்க அதுன்னு இல்லாமல் செப்பரேட்டாக அதை எடுத்து ஸ்டடி பண்ணுறேன்னா கட்டாயம் அந்த லோகரஞ்சகத்துவம் எப்படி வருதுங்கிறத பண்ணலாம். நான் இப்போ இதை மட்டும் எடுத்து அந்த ஃபஸ்ட் பார்ட் பண்ணதுனால டீட்டெயில்ஸ்க்கு போகல. பட் அந்த டேர்ம் கொடுத்துருக்கு. இட் இஸ் ஃபார் த காமன் மேன் மாதிரி. இட் இஸ் ப்ராபபிளி இட் இஸ் நாட் ஸோ ஹெவி மாதிரியா. இட் குட் பி இப்போ தட் குட் பி அ வெரி குட் ஏரியா ஃபார் ரிசர்ச் ஆல்சோ.
இல்லை அது என்னென்னா சில டேர்ம்ஸ் எல்லாம் வந்து டேர்ம்ஸ் கிடைக்கிறது அது என்னங்கிறது கிடைக்க மாட்டேன். இன்னொரு கஷ்டம் நீங்கள் சொல்கிறது மாதிரி 7 பேர்த்து எழுதுவான்னு ஒன்று சொல்லுவாள். தப்புக்கள் எங்கெல்லாம் இருக்குன்னு சொல்லும்போது அந்த 7 காப்பி பண்ணுறா இல்லையா, அவள் கூட வந்து தப்பு பண்ணிடலாம். இன்னொன்று சர்வோஜி மகாராஜா வந்து எங்கே போகும்பொழுது இந்த அங்கங்கே கிடைக்கிற ஓலையெல்லாம் கலெக்ட் பண்ணுறார், காப்பி பண்ணுறாரு, எடுத்துன்னு வர்றார். அப்படி வந்ததில் நிறையா வந்து சரஸ்வதி மகாலேபில் உங்களுக்கு தெரியும் அதெல்லாமே. அப்படி வரும்பொழுது எழுதுகிறவருடைய தப்பு கூட வந்துவிடலாம்.
அதுக்கு தான் ஒரு இடத்துல சொல்லியிருக்காங்க, அவருடைய மியூசிஷியன்ஸு டான்ஸ் சொல்லி கொடுக்குறவங்க, டான்சர்ஸு மியூசிஷியன்ஸ் யார் இருக்கீங்களோ எல்லாரையும் வர சொல்லி உங்களுக்கு உங்கள் பாடாந்தத்தில் என்ன தெரியுதோ அது எல்லாத்தையும் அப்படியே எனக்கு ஒரு ஓலையில் எழுதி கொடுத்துருங்க. அந்த மாதிரி வந்தது தான் அந்த ராகலக்ஷ்ணா மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட்ஸ் லாஸ்ட் இதில் பண்ணது.
தேங்க்யூ. சங்கீத கலாச்சாரியா டாக்டர் ரீட்டா ராஜன்.
Such a wonderful presentation, ma'am. அதாவது இந்த மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட் பார்க்குறதே அதுவே ஒரு இது பெரிய சமாச்சாரம். யூ நீட் ஸ்பெஷல் குவாலிஃபிகேஷன் டு ஸ்டடி த மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட்ஸ். ஐ நோ ஹவு யூ ஹவ் ஒர்க் ஃபார் தட். நீங்கள் ஏதோ சொல்லிட்டு வந்தீங்க இல்லையா, அது வந்து ஏதோ இதெல்லாம் ராகம் பேராக இருந்திருக்குன்னு. அதில் பஞ்சமம்னு வந்தது. ஆமாம், பஞ்சம ராகம் இப்போ இருக்குது. ஆமாம், பஞ்சமம் தான் பஞ்சம ராகம் வந்து இந்த கரரப்பிரியால் சரிதா பனி சான்னு அது என்னமோ ஃப்ளூக்கில் ஏதோ வந்துருத்தோம். தச்சு சிங்களாச்சாரி அதில் ஒரு கீர்த்தனை பண்ணியிருக்கார். தென் இன் அனதர் பிளேஸ் யூ செட் இந்த ஸ்பீட் சாதாரித்த கீதி இன்க்ரீஸிங் ஸ்பீட் இன் ஸ்டேஜஸ்ன்னு சொன்னீங்க. தட் வாஸ் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங். இப்போது ஸ்பீடு வந்து நம்மளாம் முதல் காலம், 2ஆம் காலம், 3ஆம் காலன்றது ஆக்சுவலாக 1, 2, 3 அதில் தான் இருக்கும். 2ஆம் காலம் ஸ்பீடு முதல் காலத்து மாதிரி டபுளாக இருக்கும். அப்புறம் ரெண்டாம் காலம் வந்து ரெண்டு மாதிரி இது 4 1 2 4 அந்த மாதிரி போகும். வேற நார்த் இந்தியன்ஸ் வச்ச அவள் கிராஜுவலாக தான் போவாள். ஐ மீன் ஐ டோன்ட் நோ ஹவு ஃபார் இது
சாதாரிதா.
எனக்கு அந்த ஸ்லைட் நம்பர் தெரியல. No, that was also quite interesting, I must say.
ஸ்ட்ரெயிட் அண்ட் டெலிகேட் இதுக்கு முன்னாடி இருக்கிறதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இன் 3 ஸ்தானாஸ்னு கொடுத்துருக்கேன். அதுவா 3 ஸ்தானாஸ்ங்கிறது வந்து மந்திர மத்தியஸ்தானம் அந்த இது.
No, நீங்கள் எனக்கு ஓரளவு சொன்னால் போகிறோமா? யூ நீட் நாட் கோ த்ரூ.
இல்லை 3
quite interesting. Increasing speed in stages.
இன்க்ரீசிங் ஃபாஸ்டர் அண்ட் மச் ஃபாஸ்டர் மச் ஃபாஸ்டர். ஸ்லோகம் அப்படியே தான் வருது. தெரியல அந்த மாதிரியா இல்லை அரித்மெட்டிக் இந்த தெரியல. இட் ஷுட் பி சங் ஃபாஸ்ட். அதாவது இந்த ஸ்லோகம் எல்லாம் ரொம்ப ஷார்ட்டாக இருக்கிறதுனால நம்ம வி கேன் ஒன்லி மேக் அ ட்ரான்ஸ்லேஷன் ஆஃப் தி சான்ஸ்கிரிட். இன்டர்பிரிட்டேஷன் ஆஃப் தட் சான்ஸ்கிரிட் லைஸ் வித் த ஸ்காலர். இதை பற்றி இப்போ வந்து சாரங்கதேவரோ இல்லை அபினவாவோ யாரோ ஒருத்தர் இந்த பர்டிகுலர் ஆஸ்பெக்ட் எடுத்து சிம்மபூப்பாலா எடுத்து பண்ணியிருக்காங்கன்னா அதை நம்ம எடுத்து பண்ணலாம். அதான் இப்போ ஒவ்வொரு ஆஸ்பெக்டையும் இப்போ இதில் இது இருக்குங்கிறது உள்ளே போனோம்னா தான் ஒரு ஆஸ்பெக்டை மட்டும் எடுத்து லேட்டர் ஒர்க்ஸில் எப்படி கொடுத்துருக்கு இது எப்படி இருக்குன்னா வி கேன் டெஃபினெட்லி ஹாவ் அன் அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங். இது இப்படி தான் இருக்கணும். அதுக்கு ஸ்வர பிரயோகங்களும் கொடுத்துருப்பாங்க. அப்போ நமக்கு ஒரு மாதிரி புரிஞ்சிடும் வெதர் இட் இஸ் ஜஸ்ட் டபுள் ஆர் த செட்.
Then Gaudi Giti, Gamaka only in vocal, you said.
ஆமாம் வோக்கலில் அதாவது இட்ஸ் ஆன் வாய்ஸில் சொல்லணும்னு சொல்கிறாங்க அவங்க. ஸ்பெசிஃபிக்காக ஆன் த த்ரோட்.
இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்ஸ்க்கெல்லாம் அந்த மாதிரி ஒன்று சொல்ல
தெரியலையே.
ஓகே.
இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டு நெக்ஸ்ட் வரப்போகிறதுன்னு தான் டெக்ஸ்ட் எண்டாருது. அது காணும். யாராவது அப்படி கொஞ்சம் ஏதாவது ஒரு மேனுஸ்கிரிப்ட் லைப்ரரி கேரளாக்கு போய் எங்கேயாவது ஓலை கிடச்சதுன்னா யார் வீட்லையாவது இருக்கான்னு பார்த்து
உங்களுக்கு டைம் கிடைக்கும் வித் ஆல் யுவர்.
Yeah.
அதான்
instrument harp only or it could also be the different kinds of avanadda, vipanchika அந்த மாதிரிலாம் இருந்திருக்கலாம்.
ஓகே thank you ma.
Thank you. Any members of the audience, any query? Yes, please. Here. I'll come to you, Rajshri. Just a minute.
என் பேர் சௌரவ். நான் ஒரு மும்பையில் பிறந்த வளர்ந்த மராட்டிக்காரன். இப்போ தமிழ் தான் எனக்கு புதுசு. தமிழ் இசையும் எனக்கு புதுசு தான். உங்க மாதிரி நீங்க எல்லாம் பிறந்தோட
Can you come to the point quickly?
So I can't comment much, but this first time I'm first day in Chennai. So இந்த ரெண்டு சொற்பொழிவும் கற்றது கைமண் அளவு கல்லாதது உலக அளவு மாதிரி இருக்கு. It just tells me I'm also a student of Sanskrit learning Paninian grammar. அது மாமி கேட்ட இதுக்கு ஒரு சின்ன கருத்து தான் சொல்றேன். என்னோட கருத்து Panini when he's written his grammar, he uses 3 words. One is chandas, another is bhasha, and third is loka. This is his classification of language. Chandas predominantly, is my interpretation, chandas predominantly means poetic, prosodic language, metrical language. Bhasha, in my interpretation of his understanding of bhasha, is standard language used in academics and texts and all, and loka is anything else that is prevalent all over the world. So when the word lok, generally because of prevalence of Hindi, we think loka means people. Loka also, the word also means world. So when they say lokaranjaka, it can also mean that which is pleasant to anybody and everybody.
Yes.
Not necessarily a particular group of students or scholars.
Yeah.
And the madri irakalam than nenikren. I'm not too sure about it, but that
generally for the entire mankind.
Yeah, all mankind they are including. And another thing just small thing about the tala, because the absence of tala discussion, it could be the absence of availability of manuscripts. That could be one reason. Or another thing, when we look at metrical system of Sanskrit and those Sanskrit meters, Vasanta Tilaka and all that, and now when we look at today's tala system, there's a lot of difference in the structure. So if we sing Sanskrit shlokas, we cannot set them to Aditalam, Mishra Chapu, Kanda Chapu. So there's possibility that their understanding of Tala system was quite different, or they were probably less concerned about being rigid in Tala. The Tala was probably left to...
No, they had.
Not true.
No? Okay. No. I don't know. They were probably there was more flexibility.
Actually we have many Jaina works, the Jainism works, the Prakrit and the Sanskrit text belonging to 8, 9, 10, 11, like Harivamsha. There were, I have read through Mukund Lad's writings also, where parallel, it's a literature, not a musical work, but we have so many musical references. And one starts, like I was also wondered about one particular raga is explained in this same Brhaddesi, and that the story goes, person says, whoever can play this particular raga, to him only I can give my daughter, in like Swayamvaram Mari. And many people fail to do that. In the Marla Sala stories, anecdotes, we have some references. We are not worried about who married that girl, but there were efforts. Like அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஸ்வயம்வரத்துக்கே இந்த ராகத்தை வாசிக்கணுங்கிற அளவுக்கு ஒரு ஸ்டாண்டர்டைசேஷனும் இருந்திருக்கு. People were also happy to come and there are so many references like that, which will be a little deviating from the present topic, so I didn't.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saurabh. Dr. Rajshri Ramakrishna, right at the back. Rajshri, wait for because it will get recorded.
Dr. Premalatha, it was a good presentation. You established a few facts. One was like, just like Abhinavagupta is a bridge, you are saying Matanga is also a bridge, kind of, you know. And what is the basis of your comparing the Tamil tradition with this? Because the Mela system came much later.
Yeah.
So the note varieties, like you showed us a group of swaras. How would you distinguish, I mean, what type of note it is, whether it is the lower or the higher, or what is that is one question. Another is like the ragas like Kaushikam and Takka you are comparing. On what basis will you compare? It is, I'm asking you futuristic, not what you presented, but later when you're going to compare the Tamil tradition and the Samskrita tradition, how are you going to compare? And pre-Mela period, how are you going to establish those swara kurugala kamchingalya? What are you going to study from that?
Yeah. First question is how we are going. Now I will take up this, why to compare the Tamil tradition. The references to the contemporary and a little after that particular work, it is always worthwhile to look into. We should not just look at the main work alone. So it is part of research. And I have now mentioned only the names occurring. So we can't just make a comparative study of the Takka Raga of Brhaddesi to the Takkesi Ragam of, please, that will not be a good work. When we were working about Takkesi or about the Takka Raga or the Grama Ragas, when there happens to be, this can also be thought about, that there is something is existing. And this is why I took the Pan tradition, means that same period of 7th to 9th century. If there happens to be some literatures, for instance in Sanskrit or Telugu or in Prakrit, there are some works, Hari Vijaya, there was a lot of that Botta Katha, they say, lot of Katha stories and all. So that also we have so many references. When the Naika was doing this, she sang this particular raga. You will get that only one reference. So we can, that is a different research, that comparison cannot be done exactly like this is this one, this is this one. Probably the context in which that raga was used in that particular story to that tradition which had evolved. Since we do not have any other, the vocal, like a YouTube today, we have recordings, we have notations, and these are all mere theoretical information. So we have to be aware of such and such things. That would be the first stage of work. And when it comes to, I would not prefer to do an exact comparison of the Pan Kausikam or anything to the raga of Brhaddesi, because probably it can be done when we get more information about the melodic structure of Brhaddesi from Sangeet Ratnakara or Simha Bhupalas. Then we have to do that, also will be a very challenging work. So that an exact one-to-one comparison will not be appreciable. And number two, the Swara Kurugal idella irukkungrappo, that whatever is given in the book, now that has to come out and somebody should know what is there. So next stage would be to how to look into this. Should we take it front? Should we compare it, or should we relate it to? And all this would be probably the next stage of our interpretations. So at the early stage, maybe from the already done work, I was able to come to this stage. From there I have taken up. Maybe from this we have to next move, and that itself should be showing us the way how we have to proceed. The work will be showing us the way. That's what I feel.
Thank you. I now hand over the mic to Sangeeta Kalanidhi designate Shri T.M. Krishna. We can have your discussion off the program, sir. Thank you so much. Krishna, over to you.
First of all, Dr. Premalatha, thank you so much for a beautiful presentation, brilliant presentation. Thank you very much for this presentation. Because you often forget, especially I think as musicians, how important manuscript reading, understanding the past in its own context is so important. And I think more and more this separation between this study and Kacheri Mede has to happen. Because நாங்கள் வந்து ரொம்ப ஈஸியாக வந்து சம்பிரதாயம் வார்த்தையை சொல்லிட்டு போயிட்டே இருக்கோம் without actually reading what you have written. People like you. So it's very important that we reflect about these things. My initial, when I first was introduced to this, what I would call ancient period music by Dr. N. Ramanathan, I had no clue even how to imagine it. And that's one of our struggles. Because our imagination, it's already, everything is fixed in Iki. So, I mean, I think one of the most, you mentioned at the beginning, this whole idea of how Shruti can be a notional idea is, I think, one of the most fascinating things. That one sound within which you could either say that sound has three other sounds in it, or you can say in that sound, the sounds are sounded. You could say it either way. But the fact that, if you're going to put it very simplistically, what I would say is from being a system, old system, where there were only fixed number of swaras, but multiple tonics, we have moved to a system where we have multiple swaras and a fixed tonic. Almost like an inversion has happened, which is why it's difficult for us. So I may have a few questions also. Yes. So he only talks about Antara and Kakali. And the rendu sadharana mattumda irukka?
Yeah, in Bharata only two sadharanas. In Brhaddesi we have these two.
You have only these two?
Yeah.
But the term Vikrita Swara irukka adala?
Yeah, Vikrita Swara concept starts after the...
So after only...
There is one more concept like the Kaishika, Antara,
yeah.
Where the Gandhara and the Madhyama. Because between Gandhara and Madhyama, I can show you this.
No, my question was, in the text la irkan kekar. That is my question.
Yeah, there are two more.
That is my question.
Because Antara, I'll show you the place where it comes. That's all. So that will be easy for us to look at.
Antara Kakali
if you take here,
Shadja Gramathla.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4 is Shadja, 7 is Rishabha, 9 is Gandhara.
Yeah.
You had that Antara on 11.
11, correct.
And the Kakali on 2.
2, yeah.
So Kakali Nishadam comes very closer to Shadja on 2.
Correct.
And there is also another one concept where the Nishada will get increased by one Shruti and the Shadja will decrease by one Shruti. So there we see the Nishada from 22 going to 1. And the Shadja from 4 can come to 3.
Yeah.
So these are the two.
So
in the Mari our concept slowly evolved. So the clarity about this we can see in Sangeet Ratna.
Yeah, that is why. So it is already
and the same way, from 9 the Gandhara can get elevated to 10. You have one Gandhara on 11 as the Antara.
Okay, good.
So this will become the Sadharana.
So both these are already established in the Brhaddesi.
This is the period when there were some changes.
Interesting.
This had come. The Gandhara from 9, there's a little bit like something you can sing that Gandhara koncham thukki padala. It's not up to the Tantra. Abdi panamna, then it comes to 10. You can't put it under 9, 10, 11, 11 Gandhara, 10 Gandhara. Abdi nenchukka mudiyadhu. Avanga paatla apdi irundadungiradhu, we have to reverse it and see how it is written. So the melodies gave some room for more creativity. So
and also I think separate identities were being established slowly. For these moved positions, basically,
they were given
right?
predominance. They were given
individual positions, right?
Yes.
So
this is the change which we see in the later Gandharva or the early Deshi.
Yes. The other interesting thing, again, conceptual, I'm not saying it literally, you have to say that again, is this, though you speak about Sajjagrama and Madhyamagrama as being foundational frameworks for the ragas, it's also interesting on how ragas are classified by the way they are sung.
Yes.
And if you look at, for example, Ghana Nayadesya, which comes much later, that's also a classification of how a raga is actually being rendered. Conceptually, it is an interesting parallel. Instead of just slotting it on terms of, Mela Karta, it's also a question of characteristic of how the raga should sound. So I just thought that was an interesting...
quality or the depthness
exactly.
of the
So I just thought it was an interesting parallel. The other thing I wanted to point to, I think, which confuses a lot of us who read old treatises, is the reuse of terminology.
Yes.
The fact that terminologies will be always reused, but every time they mean something else.
Yes.
Right? And unfortunately, I think many times we make the mistake of making that literal jump, hop, skip and jump by taking a meaning.
What we usually try to do is, which we have to avoid, is when we need a reference, we see that an authentic source is there in some ancient text, we have to take it as reference. We take that shloka alone, we take that term alone. But that author definitely would have given the context and the description of that particular term for which he is doing.
Exactly.
We forget that, and that is being incorporated, which has to be avoided.
That's right. I had another question for you. Does he use the word marga?
Maybe I have to study the entire text word by
Okay,
word
sorry.
to see whether he uses the term
I was just
marga.
curious whether he refers to
He says as per Brahma, as per Bharata.
Bharata, but does he use the word marga?
Probably I have to check and tell you, because I
just-
have gone into the words of the third chapter.
So I
Maybe
was just-
the first chapter might
I was
be
just curious because whether that reference then comes later, referring to
Bharata
as
as marga.
marga. Is it come post Brhaddesi is my curiosity.
Maybe I can find it out and let
Okay,
you
sorry.
know.
That was
Definitely.
fine. And I think that I just want to add to your observation of Panchamarabha in that period. And I really think actually Richard Widd's work on
Yeah,
Kudime and
he
Malai
has
is,
also
on Kudima Malai
spoken.
also is quite one of the most incredible things to read. And I think there is something to it, not like you said in a literal manner. Also the fact that you have the inscriptions around the same period in the southern region also points to natural overlaps that may have happened. Now, what they are, we don't know. So, I think there is, instead of separating what I would call Tamil Isai and Sanskrit music or whatever you want to call it, I think this conversation between the two, socially and culturally, must have happened in many ways. And maybe exploring that will also tell us how, whether they are different, similar, overlaps, whatever it is. I thought it's a very important point you made on how that needs to be looked at. But again, once again, thank you very much for...
And also it's also presumed that Matanga should have lived, because Karnataka meant all that entire Deccan Plateau. So he would probably belong to this region. That's also one of the themes which is still under research. I would not take it as a concluded matter.
I agree with you on that.
Karnataka.
We can't conclude in that period.
Yes.
So
it was, everything was, it's one India. That's what we have to think. But he also speaks about Karnataka. He says, he uses the word Karnataka, which doesn't mean today's geographical state of Karnataka. It is the entire.
He uses it in terms of geography?
No, when he was saying about the ragas, no, the ragas, raga
region,
Lakshana.
it's a regional, not
a...
everywhere,
the terms, no, when he uses the terms, this is from this region. That's
so it's
where
a
only
regional
Deshi
term. That's
comes.
what I was asked.
It's the regional. And which meant the entire south. So there could have been something similar happening around. So this is what could be. Again, we all, that's the main thing which I have learned from Professor N. Ramanathan. When we say it should be, it is. It could be, it probably be. To next stage, let us get, and then we go into the second. That's what we try to do.
If I may just say one thing, only a complaint I had against Ramanathan sir is when he knows he's 100% it is, he will still say it may be.
But
so
I had got one comment. உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப தைரியம் ஜாஸ்தி நீங்க சொல்லிட்டீங்களே. Yes sir, it is. With my research I said something like it is, because I have got it done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Premalatha. Thank you all. Tomorrow we meet at 8 o'clock.
Thank you.
And we don't have congregational singing, so the prayer will be over in a couple of minutes. And so the lecture demonstration will start at 8:05. Dr. R. Hemlatha, similar phraseology in non-allied ragas. Second lecture demonstration, Dr. A. Ramanathan, Izhappin Valiyum, Valiyin Izhappum, Oppari Paadalgalai Munvaithu. These are the two lecture demonstrations for tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you all here. Have a great day ahead.